The Galactic Council's mistake. Another request from the Terran delegation. High Counselor Vixna announced, her crystalline form shimming with barely contained amusement. The gathered representatives of the Galactic Council's Defense Committee exchanged knowing looks, their various appendages and sensory organs conveying what their diverse physiologies considered smirks. Ambassador Zarkath of the Centaurian Empire leaned forward, his scaled skin reflecting the chamber's ambient light. Let me guess, they want access to our shield harmonics again. Or perhaps they're still insisting their composite armor deserves recognition as a viable defense system. The chamber filled with the equivalent of chuckles from 24 species. Humanity's persistent attempts to gain standing in the Galactic Defense Initiative had become something of a running joke in the Council's chambers. 70 years since first contact, and Earth still insisted on pursuing what the rest of the galaxy saw as primitive, brute force approaches to starship defense. Actually, Vixna continued, her crystalline structure pulsing with the colors of condescension. They're requesting permission to demonstrate a new defensive technology at next cycle's military exercises. Denied, came the immediate response from General Cthor of the Arcturus Federation, his biomechanical implants whirring as he shook his head. We've wasted enough time entertaining their peculiar fixation with physical barriers. The galaxy has moved beyond such crude approaches centuries ago. What the Council didn't know, couldn't know, was that their dismissal of humanity's defensive capabilities was exactly what Admiral Sarah Chen had been counting on. From her office deep within the Olympus Defense Complex on Mars, she watched the Council's response through encrypted quantum channels, her weathered face breaking into a slight smile. Transmission received. Admiral, her AI assistant reported. The Council has rejected our petition, as expected. Chen nodded, her eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the progress of Project Aegeus. Deep beneath the surface of Titan, Saturn's largest moon, thousands of engineers and scientists worked tirelessly on humanity's greatest secret. The massive facility, hidden from both conventional and quantum scanning methods, housed something that would soon force the galaxy to reevaluate everything they thought they knew about defensive technology. Send word to Director Patel, Chen commanded. Operation Trojan Horse is proceeding as planned. The Council's continued underestimation of our capabilities gives us the time we need. In the facility below, Dr. Aisha Patel stood before a massive viewing window, watching as automated systems assembled layers of what appeared to be conventional armor plating. But conventional was the last word anyone would use to describe what they were building. Each plate contained millions of quantum-entangled particles, arranged in patterns that had taken decades to perfect. When combined with Earth's primitive materials science, they created something entirely new, a defense system that didn't just stop attacks, but learned from them. Status report, Patel called out to her team, her voice echoing through the cavernous assembly chamber. Layer 847 is integrating perfectly with the quantum mesh director, Dr. Marcus Wong responded, his fingers dancing across holographic controls. The adaptive algorithms are showing a 99.8% synchronization rate, better than we hoped for. What the Galactic Council had dismissed as humanity's technological backwardness was, in fact, their greatest advantage. While other species had abandoned physical armor in favor of ever more sophisticated energy shields, humanity had been quietly revolutionizing the fundamental nature of matter itself. The massive shape taking form in the assembly chamber was officially designated as the EDF Prometheus, though most of the project staff had taken to calling it the Juggernaut. It looked deceptively simple from the outside. A warship whose hull seemed to be composed of overlapping plates of dark metal. The truth was far more complex. Each plate was a miracle of engineering, combining traditional materials with quantum-manipulated structures that could adapt their very atomic nature in response to attacks. They think we're stuck in the past, Patel murmured, pressing her hand against the reinforced viewing window. They don't understand that we never stopped innovating. We just chose a different path. In orbit above Earth, The Galactic Council's observation post continued its routine monitoring of human space traffic. The alien sensors swept across what they saw as primitive ships with outdated armor, their operators never suspecting that each scan was being analyzed and learned from. The data fed back to Project HFY to further refine its adaptive capabilities. Admiral Chen's quantum-secured communication reached every major military installation in the solar system. The Council's rejection is confirmed. Proceed to Phase 2. It's time to show the galaxy what happens when you mistake patience for weakness. As news of the Council's latest dismissal spread through the Project HFY's facility, there was no disappointment among the human workers. Instead, there was a quiet determination, a shared understanding that their greatest advantage lay in being underestimated. The galaxy's most advanced civilizations had forgotten a crucial lesson. Sometimes the most dangerous predator is the one you don't consider a threat. The Prometheus continued to grow in its secret birth, each new layer adding to its unprecedented capabilities. Soon, very soon, the galaxy would learn that human ingenuity hadn't been dulled by their relative youth among the stars. It had been sharpened by it. And when that lesson came, it would be taught not through the elegant energy shields favored by the Council races, but through something they had dismissed as obsolete, armor that was about to redefine the very nature of defensive warfare. Project Titan's dawn. The first sign that something was wrong came from the Proximan Border Patrol. Their sensors detected an anomalous energy signature deep within the Sol system, but the reading vanished before they could triangulate its source. The patrol commander filed it as a routine sensor ghost, one of dozens logged each day as their sophisticated equipment attempted to monitor humanity's primitive operations. They couldn't have known they'd glimpsed the first test firing of the Prometheus's integrated defense system. In the control center beneath Titan's frozen surface, Dr. Aisha Patel watched as holographic displays showed the results of the test. The massive chamber hummed with activity as her team analyzed the data streaming in from hundreds of quantum sensors. Containment held at 99.99%. Dr. Wong announced, his voice tight with controlled excitement. The quantum mesh absorbed the energy signature exactly as predicted. As far as their sensors were concerned, it was like watching a star blink. Admiral Chen's holographic form nodded from her command station on Mars. And the adaptation protocols. Better than we hoped, Paddle responded, pulling up a detailed analysis. Each layer of the armor didn't just absorb the test blast. It learned from it. The quantum-entangled particles are rewriting their own structure based on the attack patterns. It's like, she paused, searching for the right analogy. It's like teaching a martial artist by throwing punches at them. Each attack makes the defense stronger. The project that the Galactic Council had dismissed as impossible was not only working, it was exceeding its design parameters. While alien civilizations had pursued ever more powerful energy shields, humanity had created something fundamentally different, armor that evolved. Deep within the Prometheus's hull, automated systems continued laying down new layers of the revolutionary armor. Each plate contained billions of quantum-entangled particles arranged in patterns that mimicked organic neural networks. The outer layers appeared to be simple metallic armor, deliberately designed to maintain the illusion of human technological backwardness. But beneath that deceptive surface, something unprecedented was taking shape. "Show me the stress test results," Chen commanded. The holographic display shifted, showing a simulation of the Prometheus under attack. Conventional weapons splashed harmlessly against its hull, but that wasn't the impressive part. With each impact, the armor's quantum structure evolved, becoming more resistant to similar attacks. Energy weapons that should have cut through traditional defenses were absorbed, their power redirected through the quantum mesh to strengthen the ship's integrity. "The really interesting part," Paddle said, highlighting a section of data, "is how it handles unknown attack types. Watch this sequence." The simulation showed an alien weapon type that hadn't been programmed into the defense systems. The first hit caused minimal damage, but within microseconds, the quantum mesh had analyzed the attack pattern and begun adapting. By the third hit, The weapon was completely ineffective. "It's not just armor anymore," Wong added, his fingers dancing across the controls to zoom in on the molecular structure. "It's more like an immune system. Each attack makes it stronger, and it shares that knowledge across every particle of the mesh. Hit one section with a new weapon, and the entire hull becomes resistant." In orbit around Titan, disguised as a routine mining operation, the Prometheus's massive form was nearing completion. Its dark hull absorbed nearly all light, making it difficult to track even with visual sensors. But its true stealth lay in its apparent primitiveness. No one looking at it would guess that it represented a leap in defensive technology that would reshape galactic warfare. Admiral Chen's expression remained neutral, but there was a glint of satisfaction in her eyes. "Time estimate until completion. 3 weeks, Paddle replied. "We could push it faster, but—" "No," Chen cut her off. "We do this right. The galaxy's been underestimating us for 70 years. Let them keep thinking we're stuck in the past for a few more weeks." The Admiral's gaze shifted to another display, showing the positions of various alien observation posts throughout the solar system. None of them had any idea that their routine scans were providing valuable data for the Prometheus's adaptive systems. Each probe, each scan, each dismissive analysis of human technology was being fed into the quantum mesh, preparing it for any possible attack. "Director Patel," Chen said after a long moment, "initiate the final integration phase. It's time to wake our sleeping giant." As the order went out, the entire facility seemed to pulse with renewed energy. Teams that had worked in isolated cells for years began coordinating openly, bringing together the countless subsystems that would make the Prometheus more than just a ship. It would be humanity's declaration that they were done being underestimated. In her private office, Paddle pulled up an old image from humanity's history. The Trojan horse. The parallel wasn't lost on her. Like the ancient Greeks, humanity had presented their adversaries with exactly what they expected to see: technological backwardness wrapped in primitive armor. And like the Greeks, they were counting on their enemies' arrogance to blind them to the true threat until it was too late. "Begin final systems check," she announced over the facility-wide comm. "Quantum mesh synchronization in all sectors. Let's wake up our sleeping giant." As her words echoed through the facility, the Prometheus's hull began to pulse with a barely visible light, like a massive creature taking its first breath. In 3 weeks, the galaxy would learn that they had made a terrible mistake in dismissing humanity's potential. The armor they had mocked was about to become their worst nightmare. The first strike. The Arcturus Federation battle group dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, their energy signatures blazing like newborn stars. 12 ships, each one representing the pinnacle of galactic engineering, arranged themselves in an attack formation that had conquered dozens of systems. General Thor stood on his flagship's command deck, his biomechanical implants processing tactical data from the fleet. "Status report on the human defenses," he commanded, his synthetic voice carrying a note of bored contempt. "Primitive as expected, General," his tactical officer responded. "Their orbital platforms are still using basic kinetic weapons and metal armor. No sign of advanced shield technology. Their largest warship appears to be holding position near their 6th planet's largest moon." Thor's mechanical eyes focused on the tactical display showing the massive human vessel. It was an ugly thing by galactic standards. All angles and armor plates, without the elegant energy fields that marked civilized engineering. "Send the standard surrender demand. Let's get this over with." In the Olympus Defense Complex on Mars, Admiral Chen received the transmission with a slight smile. "Right on schedule," she murmured. "Send our response." The message that went out was brief. "The Sol system declines your generous offer. Withdraw immediately." Laughter rippled through the Arcturus command deck. Thor didn't join in. His artificial vocal cords weren't designed for it. But his satisfaction was evident in the pulsing of his neural indicators. "Begin the demonstration. Target their orbital defense platforms first. Standard containment protocol." The Federation ships moved with practiced precision, their energy weapons lashing out at Earth's defensive infrastructure. Orbital platforms exploded in spectacular fashion, their primitive armor offering no resistance to advanced weaponry. Thor waited for the panic, for the desperate pleas for mercy that always came when lesser species faced superior technology. Instead, a single transmission came from a human vessel near Titan. "This is EDF Prometheus to Arcturus Battle Group. You were warned." The massive ship began to move, its dark hull seeming to drink in the light of distant Saturn. Thor's tactical officers registered confusion as their sensors struggled to get clear readings on the vessel. "Sir, there's something wrong with our scans. The hull composition keeps changing." "Impossible," Thor declared. "Launch a full spectrum attack. Show them what real power looks like." The Federation fleet responded instantly, bringing their main weapons to bear on the approaching human vessel. Energy beams capable of cutting through planetary crusts lashed out, accompanied by exotic particle weapons that could unravel matter at the quantum level. It was enough firepower to destroy a small moon. In the Prometheus's command center, Dr. Patel watched through neural interfaces as the quantum mesh came fully alive for the first time. "All systems responding," she reported to Admiral Chen. "Adaptation protocols at maximum efficiency. Time to show them what we've built." The first wave of attacks struck the Prometheus, and something unprecedented happened. Instead of exploding or being vaporized, the ship's hull seemed to ripple like liquid metal. The quantum-entangled particles in the armor began their dance, analyzing, adapting, evolving. Each impact made the defense stronger, more resistant. Thor's biomechanical systems registered an emotion they hadn't processed in decades: surprise. "Impossible," he repeated, but this time there was uncertainty in his synthetic voice. "Increase power to all weapons. Concentrate fire on their engineering sections." The Federation ships poured on more power, their weapons blazing with enough energy to be visible from Earth. The Prometheus took the hits directly, its hull now glowing with absorbed energy. But instead of weakening, the massive vessel accelerated, pushing through the barrage like a leviathan rising from the depths. "Sir," Thor's tactical officer called out, genuine fear in his voice. "Their hull, it's not just absorbing our attacks, it's learning from them. Each hit is less effective than the last. Our weapons, they're becoming useless." In the Olympus complex, Chen watched the battle with grim satisfaction. "Status of the quantum mesh. Performing beyond specifications," Paddle reported. "The armor has already adapted to their entire weapon spectrum. We're not just surviving their attacks. We're getting stronger." The Prometheus moved with deliberate purpose toward the Federation fleet, its hull now rippling with captured energy. Weapons fire continued to splash against it, but the impacts were becoming less and less visible as the quantum mesh perfectly countered each attack type. "This is impossible," Thor declared for the third time, but now there was something new in his synthetic voice. "Fear. All ships, switch to maximum yield. Deploy the phase cannons. Nothing can absorb that much energy." Actually, Chen's voice came through on all Federation frequencies. "That's exactly what we were counting on." The Prometheus's hull suddenly blazed with light as the quantum mesh released its stored energy. All the power from the Federation's attacks, all the force they had poured into trying to destroy the human vessel, was channeled through the evolved armor and released in a single devastating wave. 3 Federation ships simply ceased to exist, their matter converted to energy by the attack. 4 more spun out of formation, their systems overloaded. The remaining vessels, including Thor's flagship, found themselves facing something they had never expected: a human ship that had turned their own power against them. "Still think our armor is primitive?" Chen's voice carried no mockery, just quiet confidence. "You have 30 seconds to surrender before we demonstrate what else our outdated technology can do." Thor stared at the tactical display, his mechanical eyes trying to process what they were seeing. The ugly human vessel had shrugged off the best weapons in the galaxy and grown stronger from the experience. Worse, It had done so using principles his most advanced systems couldn't even comprehend. "This is Federation Command," he transmitted, his synthetic voice stripped of all its previous contempt. We surrender." Turning point. The Galactic Council's emergency session was chaos. Representatives from 200 species crowded the massive chamber, their voices raised in a cacophony of different languages as they tried to process what had happened in the Sol system. The defeat of an Arcturus Federation battle group, considered among the most powerful fleets in known space, had shattered centuries of assumptions about military power. High Counselor Vixna's crystalline form pulsed with agitation as she called for order. "The recordings have been verified," she announced, her voice cutting through the din. "The human vessel designated Prometheus successfully defeated 12 Federation warships using technology we had dismissed as obsolete." The chamber erupted again. Ambassador Zarkath of the Centaurian Empire rose from his seat, his scaled skin now a pale shade of anxiety. "Impossible. We've monitored their development for decades. Their reliance on physical armor was a sign of their technological infancy. This must be some sort of deception." Deception. The voice came from the human delegation's platform, where Admiral Chen stood calmly. She had insisted on delivering Earth's statement in person, a break from the usual holographic appearances. "No, Ambassador. What you witnessed was the result of decades of innovation that you were too arrogant to notice." In orbit around Earth, the Prometheus held position, its dark hull still bearing the scars of battle, scars that were visibly healing as the quantum mesh continued to evolve and adapt. Federation salvage teams, working under heavy supervision, moved among their crippled vessels, their sensors recording data that made no sense to their advanced systems. Dr. Paddle stood in the ship's observation deck, watching the salvage operation through windows that were far more than simple transparent barriers. Like everything else in the vessel, they were integrated into the quantum mesh, learning and adapting with each scan that probed them. "Their sensors are getting more sophisticated," Wong reported from his station. "They're trying to understand how the armor works." Paddle smiled. "Let them scan. Every probe, every analysis, every test just makes the mesh stronger. That's what they still don't understand. We didn't just build a defense system. We built one that evolves." Back in the council chamber, Chen activated a holographic display. "For 70 years, you watched us build ships with physical armor and assumed we were stuck in the past. You never asked why a species capable of faster-than-light travel would choose such a seemingly primitive approach. You never wondered if perhaps we had seen something you had overlooked." The display showed the Prometheus's hull at a quantum level. The council representatives leaned forward, their various sensory organs straining to understand what they were seeing. The patterns in the armor were unlike anything in their technological database, not because they were more advanced, but because they approached the problem of defense from an entirely different direction. "While you perfected energy shields," Chen continued, "we perfected matter itself. While you built barriers to deflect attacks, we built armor that learns from them. Every weapon you used against us just taught our defense systems how to be stronger." In the Olympus Defense Complex on Mars, teams of engineers were already incorporating data from the battle into the next generation of quantum mesh. The Prometheus had exceeded all expectations, but it was only the beginning. The principles proven in combat would soon be applied to everything from personal armor to planetary defense systems. "The balance of power hasn't just shifted," Chen declared to the council. "It's been fundamentally rewritten. Your assumption that technological progress could only follow one path, your path, was your greatest mistake." High Counselor Vixna's crystalline form dimmed slightly. "What are your demands, Admiral?" "Surely Earth now seeks to claim its place among the dominant powers of the galaxy." Chen's laugh surprised them all. "Demands? We don't make demands, Counselor. We're offering an opportunity. Earth is willing to share our quantum mesh technology with peaceful civilizations. We believe in innovation through cooperation, not domination through force." The chamber erupted in surprised murmurs. This was not how emerging powers typically behaved. Zarkath's scales shifted to a color of confusion. Share, after we dismissed you for so long, after we mocked your technologies. That's the difference you never understood, Chen replied. Earth doesn't seek to dominate. We seek to elevate. Your mockery didn't anger us. It gave us the freedom to innovate without interference. And now we offer you the chance to learn from that innovation. On the Prometheus, Patul watched as the quantum mesh incorporated yet another lesson from the alien scans probing it. The hull rippled slightly, its structure becoming even more efficient. They still don't quite grasp it, she said to Wang. They're looking for some grand secret, some fundamental breakthrough. They don't understand that the real innovation was in accepting that there's always more to learn. The salvage team's scans continued, each probe teaching the Prometheus's armor new tricks, making it stronger, more adaptive. Earth's greatest weapon wasn't the technology itself. It was the philosophy behind it. In a galaxy obsessed with perfecting single solutions, humanity had created something that never stopped growing, never stopped learning, never stopped evolving. And that was the greatest lesson of all. True strength didn't come from achieving perfection, but from never stopping the journey toward it. A new era. 1 year after the Battle of Saturn, the galaxy had changed in ways few could have predicted. The massive shipyards orbiting Mars were busy day and night, but not with weapons of war. Instead, teams of human engineers worked alongside alien scientists, sharing the principles of quantum mesh technology with civilizations that had once dismissed Earth as primitive. Admiral Chen stood in her office at the newly established Galactic Defense Innovation Center, watching ships of various designs moving through the construction docks. Some still bore the sleek lines preferred by advanced civilizations, while others showed clear human influence in their armored hulls. All of them incorporated elements of the quantum mesh technology that had revolutionized defensive warfare. Latest adaptation results from the Centaurian testing grounds. Dr. Patil announced as she entered, her neural interface projecting data into the air between them. They've successfully integrated the mesh with their energy field technology. The hybrid system is showing a 300% improvement over either technology alone. Chen nodded, studying the results. And the Arcturus Federation's research. Even more interesting. Patil brought up another display, showing the former General Cathor, now Chief Researcher Cathor, working alongside human scientists. Their biomechanical expertise combined with our quantum adaptation principles has opened up entirely new possibilities. They're developing personal armor that responds to threats faster than conscious thought. In high orbit above Earth, the Prometheus maintained its vigilant watch, but its role had changed. Instead of a weapon of war, it had become a symbol of innovation and cooperation. Its hull, scared but stronger from its one and only battle, continued to evolve and adapt, providing endless data for research teams studying the quantum mesh technology. The council session is about to begin. Chen's AI assistant reminded them. They're expecting your final report on the technology sharing initiative. In the Galactic Council chamber, the atmosphere was markedly different from a year ago. Gone was the hierarchy of advanced and primitive civilizations. Representatives from hundreds of worlds sat together, sharing insights and innovations that combined their various technological approaches in ways never before considered. High Counselor Vixna, her crystalline form gleaming with new patterns inspired by quantum mesh architecture, called the session to order. We are here to review the first year of what history will likely remember as the Great Technological Convergence. Admiral Chen, your report, please. Chen took her place at the speaker's platform, now permanently reserved for Earth's representative. 1 year ago, we revealed technology that many thought impossible. Today, I'm here to report on something even more impossible: genuine cooperation between civilizations at every stage of development. The holographic displays showed projects from across the galaxy: Arcturus Federation ships with hybrid quantum energy shields, Centaurian battle armor that learned and adapted like living tissue, Even the crystalline beings of the Vixna Collective had found ways to incorporate quantum adaptation principles into their very bodies. But the greatest breakthrough, Chen continued, wasn't technological at all. It was philosophical. We've proven that true innovation doesn't follow a single path. Progress isn't a ladder to climb. It's a web of possibilities to explore. Dr. Wang, now heading the Joint Research Initiative on Titan, contributed via hologram. The quantum mesh taught us that strength comes not from achieving perfection, but from never stopping the journey toward it. Every civilization brings its own perspective, its own approach. By combining these approaches instead of ranking them, we've achieved more in 1 year than any of us achieved in centuries of isolated development. In the shipyards, a new vessel was taking shape, the first of its kind designed and built by a truly mixed team of human and alien engineers. It incorporated the best aspects of every participating civilization: human-inspired adaptive armor, Arcturus power systems, Centaurian sensor arrays, and dozens of other innovations working in harmony. "We stand at the beginning of a new era," Chen declared to the Council, not one dominated by any single power or technological philosophy, but one where diversity of approach is recognized as our greatest strength. The galaxy mocked Earth's armor until it learned that sometimes the most powerful innovation is simply looking at old problems in new ways. Back on the Prometheus, Dr. Petal stood in her familiar spot on the observation deck, watching alien research vessels conduct their studies of the quantum mesh. Each scan, each probe, each analysis was still being absorbed and learned from, making the system stronger. But now, instead of preparing for war, it was advancing the boundaries of science. "They finally understand," she said to the ship's eye, watching the hull ripple with new patterns as it incorporated the latest scans. True advancement doesn't come from perfecting a single approach. It comes from being willing to question every assumption, to learn from every experience, to adapt and grow without end. The Prometheus's hull gleamed in the sunlight, its surface now more complex and beautiful than ever, each pattern telling the story of another lesson learned, another boundary pushed, another assumption challenged. It stood as a testament not just to human ingenuity, but to the power of seeing strength in what others called weakness. In the end, humanity's greatest contribution to the galaxy wasn't the quantum mesh technology itself. It was the lesson that came with it. In a universe of infinite possibilities, the surest path to stagnation was believing you had found the only way forward. True power lay not in reaching perfection, but in never stopping the journey toward it. As ships of all designs moved through the solar system, their hulls combining the best aspects of every civilization's technology, they carried with them the promise of a future where innovation knew no bounds, where strength came in countless forms, and where the galaxy's greatest achievements lay not in its past, but in its willingness to keep learning, keep growing, keep evolving. The armor that was once mocked had become the foundation of a revolution, not through force of arms, but through the simple, powerful truth that there is always more to learn, always another way forward, always another possibility to explore. In proving themselves strong, humanity had helped make the entire galaxy stronger. And that was a victory greater than any battle could have achieved.